All right, welcome back to another thing of Theory Thursdays. Let's learn something about the bass clef. Okay? Quick review. We talked about the treble clef, which is up here. Okay? We talked about the treble clef, and we touched on the bass clef. But now today, we're going to focus more specifically on the bass clef because your last assignment was more on the treble clef. So now we're going to do more here. But quick review. This may be on the assignment later, so I would pay attention. When we're looking at the treble clef, that's what the symbol looks like. All of your lines going from the bottom to the top, all the lines, all those notes are. Every good boy deserves fudge. E, G, B, D, F. Those are the lines for the treble clef. Good, remember that. For the spaces of the treble clef, it's your face. From bottom to top, F, A, C, E. Lines, E, G, B, D, F. Spaces, F, A, C, E. That's the treble clef. Those are your notes for the treble clef, okay? And everything is tied together with middle C. Don't forget B is this note below. I can't word. The letter that comes after C is D. So it goes C, middle C. Then you have this space underneath this line. This line is E. Middle C is here. So in between C and E is the letter D. So C, this is D, and then we go to E. And F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, and then we go on. Okay? Now, refresher, we talked about the bass clef last week, but just a refresher. Ta-da! Here's your bass clef, also known as the F clef. Why is it the F clef? Good question. Because if you notice, these two dots and this dot are on, these two dots point to the F line, and then this dot, which is the base of the bass clef, is on the F line. The treble clef is called the G clef because it circles the G. The bass clef is also called the F clef because it points towards the F. Okay? So, remember that. Now, the lines and the spaces of the bass clef are, for the lines only, going bottom to top. This is how I was taught. Give Billy dimes for arcade. I missed. Give Billy dimes for arcade. G, B, D, F, A. Okay? For the spaces now, going bottom to top. All cows eat grass. Same thing like with the treble clef, you have to bounce around. So if you put a note here, it'd be G, and you go to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Let's walk back over here for a second, okay? We talked about that this note is D because it's in between middle C and E, okay? So, if your top line of the bass clef is A, and if this is middle C, which is in the middle, what is between A and C? What is this note? Well, how's the alphabet go? It goes A, something, C, D. It goes A, B. The letter is B. So, now you have the notes that connect the two staves. Okay? So, starting on the grand staff, your first line for your bass clef is G. Then you go to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Now we're at the top. The next letter above A is B. Then we have middle C. And then the next letter that comes after C is D. And then you have the E line, E. And then you go E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then okay? Quick reminder, if it says to play any of this, I am going to strongly encourage you to play it on your instrument. Or if you have a piano, play it on your piano. If you don't, ain't no judgment. I am not going to make you record yourself and say that you played this. But I am going to encourage it. Okay? Okay. Also on your theory assignment, we talked about, now I'll cover that in a second. Make sure you can draw the bass clef. Make a dot, you go up and around, and then boom, and then you do two dots. Make sure that these two dots split the F line, and that this dot is on the F line. These two split it, this is on the F. Okay? Next page of your assignment. Okay. In your assignment, it's having you take notes that you have learned, and you will see there's a staff, and then there's like letters on top of it. Okay? It talks about note identification, which we just went over, and the instructions are in your assignment, but it also talks about writing notes down. Okay? This is confusing, so this might be important to specifically pay attention to. Okay, for example, if we look on the page, it says page 11 in the bottom right corner, under exercise 2.2, under where it talks about the lines and the spaces of the bass clef, question 2, it's got those two lines. It's got the staff with the bass clef, and then it's got the letters on top of it. Your top row of letters is your type of note, okay? Whole note is W. Half note is H. I can't do an H. Quarter note is Q, and so on and so forth, okay? Those of you that need a reminder on what those notes look like, whole note is the big circle. Nothing attached to it. It's full. It had a big dinner, okay? It's a whole note. It's a whole unit. Then you have a half note. It has a stick. It's still eating. It's like its utensil. It's still eating. It's still trying to become a whole note. Whole note, 4 counts. Half note, 2 counts. After a whole note, I mean a half note, after a half note, you have a quarter note. One count. It is worth 1 count. 4 counts, 2 counts, 1 count. Okay? W is whole note. H is half note. Q is quarter note. Okay? That's that top. So if you see something that is like, for example, H, it goes H. Oh, and there goes that. Ugh, Mr. Williams is still a klutz. It goes H, and then G. You are going to write a half note, which is this one, on the G area. If you notice, and if you would refer to your spaces, you would know that G is here. So, if we extend this a little bit more, a half note for G, all cows eat grass, G, half note. Actually, that's wrong. Half note. Okay? You guys see that? Okay, good. All right. This is in your assignment. This is going bye-bye. Quick music theory tip. When writing notes with stems, i.e. half notes, whole notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, 16th notes, 30th, Everything that's not a whole note or a breath. I'll tell you what that is probably later. Okay? Everything that is not a whole note. So anything worth less than a whole note, okay, is going to have a stem. Now, when you are writing notes, and this does not matter what clef you are in unless we get to part writing, which I don't think we will, but if we do, you can tell me that I'm insane. Anyway, when we are writing notes, the third line, your middle line, is your indicator of should the stem go up or should the stem go down. For example, okay, if you have a note here on the bottom line, your stem should go up. Okay? If you have this note, I gotta spread this out. If you have a note here, below this third line, it'll go up. If you have a note above this third line, this is the third line, by the way. Make a better arrow. If you have a note above this third line, the stem goes down, for example. Okay? Like that. The middle line, you can do it both ways. You can either do it like this, or you can either do it like this. Most composers, when they do it so it looks uniform. So if they're going up, if they continue to go up, their stems will be down. But if they're coming down, the stems will be up. I know it's confusing. Hope you guys can see that. Okay, you can. Okay? So, just for practice, let's pick a note. Just for practice sake. Remember, third line. Okay. If you guys haven't figured out, I'm not OCD, but I'm just doing this so you guys have some clarity. Okay? Let's do something. You're going to put a quarter note on this line, second from the bottom. Okay? Which way is the stem going to go? Is it going to go up, or is it going to go down? You made your guess? You're just waiting for me to give the answer? Okay, here we go. It goes up. Because it goes up because it's below this line. It goes up. Okay? Now, you're going to now do a quarter note on this line. Or more in the space, because I still can't draw. Okay? It's more in the space. Anyway, you're going to draw a quarter note in that space. Which way does the stem go? Here's that awkward pause where I hope you are answering the question out loud, but you're probably just waiting for me to give you the answer. So here's that awkward pause now. Okay, I'm glad you answered it. You're right. It goes down. Why? Another good, hey, you answered that again. It goes down because it's above that third line. You guys are smart. Minute detail. Figured I'd just bring it up. That way there's less confusion. Okay. We talked about bass clef. Talked about the part where you have to write the notes in. All that fun stuff. And then there's more questions for you to answer. The questions are in the assignment. For example, the phrases for remembering the lines for the bass clef. They're on this assignment. The spaces in the treble clef spell. I just went over that. It's also in your last video. I'll give you a hint. It's right here. The spaces in the treble clef spell this part. Phrase for remembering the lines in the treble clef. We already went over that. It's also in your last assignment for reference. This is why I like to post stuff on files, because that way when the assignment closes, you still have access to it if it's in files as opposed to when the assignment closes. So the phrases for remembering the lines in the treble clef, whichever one, as long as you get the letters right, I don't care. The phrases for remembering the spaces in the bass clef, again, we just went over that. Excuse me. And then it talks about how to do practice. The music theory website that I've generated, that I generate these assignments from, is really helpful and has helped me a lot. And then the keyboard. I'll talk about the keyboard in a second. Is this the last page? This is the last page. I guess I have to talk about the keyboard. So let's talk about the keyboard. And then I'll have to write the notes back up in a second. Let's talk about the keyboard. Hope you guys' week is going well. Just want to say this while I'm here because I'm just awkwardly drawing lines on a chalkboard. Just want you guys to know that I'm very proud of all the work that you're doing. We are making a lot of good improvements. For my 8th graders and my 7th graders, I am still getting your books. They were back ordered, so I'm still working on getting them to you, but they're coming, okay? For my high schoolers, please keep up the good work. You guys are doing great. And I've really been encouraged by you guys. You guys are working really, really hard, and I really appreciate it. And just keep it up. All right, there's my sappiness for the day. Sorry, I have to think out loud sometimes. I need a new piece of chalk because I gotta fill these in. Oh, I caught it. I lost it, but I caught it. I am also trying to, any music that I find and that we're gonna play, especially for the high school because it's a little bit more complicated music, I'm trying to find YouTube videos of it and post it on Canvas. I'll probably work on that for the other songs too that we do, like Star Wars and stuff like that, so that way everybody has access to it. And then while I have all of y'all's attention, I want to talk a little bit about some of the other concert opportunities that I hope we're going to have. As some of you have figured out, 6th grade has not been really recruited. So one of the things I want to do, and I'm still talking about it with Mr. Brook and the principal over at the elementary school, that's not what I wanted to do, is getting a group together so that way we would be able to go play for the 6th graders and then eventually the 5th graders and get them to turn around and then actually basically go back to recruiting the 5th grade. So yeah, I just figured I'd keep that for you guys. I will get that music to you, but be on the lookout whenever that information comes out for a field trip form. We're going to go to the elementary probably, hopefully. Well, I hope we can. We may not be able to bring everybody because, go ahead. So basically what I'm doing up here is I'm drawing a keyboard. Again, I am not an artist. Farthest thing from it. Just doing my best up here. I am a musician. I am not a person who's good at drawing. Okay? So there have been a lot of questions about how to read the keyboard because you guys don't play keyboard instruments, which is fair, and I respect that, and there's no problem with that. But so I just want to go over some things, and that way we are all kind of on the same page. And that way if you have questions, you can always come back to this and then review it. So, music is about patterns, okay? Let's think about the obvious patterns you have in music. First obvious pattern is there's 7 letters. It goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then it repeats. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's an obvious pattern. Another pattern is like how we do rhythms and stuff. It's always the same notes. They create patterns, and some of the patterns you already know. Like, for example, the 20th century introduction theme. Da, 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 da. You all know that pattern. You all know that rhythm. Music is based on patterns. That's how it is. Kind of like my shirt. My shirt's a funky pattern because I'm a lumberjack. Anyway. I know you're probably looking at me going, my band teacher is the weirdest ever. And that'd be true. That would be true. Anyway. Keyboard. Let's talk about the keyboard. Let's talk about the piano. Okay? There are groupings. Groupings of keys. On a keyboard, you traditionally have white keys and you have black keys. Okay? Your white keys are the big ones. Your black ones are the little ones. Okay? Whenever you see a grouping of two black keys, like right here, okay? That means the next grouping is going to be a grouping of 3. It goes 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3. That's another pattern. Ta-da! You just learned something, okay? So, I kind of put this over here and it worked out perfectly. You have a pattern of 2, you have a pattern of 3, and you have 1, okay? That is not a trick. I didn't just go through the whole thing going, it's 2, 3, 2, 3. No, I ran out of space. So, if you're ever reading music and you come across this, where it's like, oh, it doesn't, on percussion instrument, because you can't have an infinite percussion instrument, or you can't have an infinite piano. If you could, you would see it would always be 2, 3, 2, 3, and so on. So, this first group is 2. This next group is 3. That means this next group, there's supposed to be another key right here. I just didn't choose to draw it because I don't know how far a frame I was going to be. So there's supposed to be another black key right here. Okay? Always patterns of 2 and 3s. 2s and 3s. Now, let's talk about the patterns individually. Okay? If there is a group of 2, if there's a group of 2 black keys, or 2 shaded keys, that means because there's 2, and it's splitting 3 white keys. So if there is 2 black keys, what that means is this note, always going to be C. This note, always going to be D. This note, always going to be F. Nope, I lied. This note's going to be C, this note's going to be D. I can use the alphabet. This note's going to be E. C, D, E. I said that so confidently. I'm sorry. It is C, D, and E. Don't. C, D, and E. Forget what I said 10 seconds ago. It's C, D, and E. Group of 2. The 3 underneath it are C, D, and E. Now, for those of you that know the musical alphabet, you can probably already guess what this note is going to be. But don't jump ahead of me. Group of 3. If there is a group of 3, that means there is 4 white keys underneath it. Okay? And those 4 white keys, in order, F, G, and then we start the alphabet over at A, and then we go to B. Okay? And now, you can keep the alphabet going. Even though there's not a black key here, it's implied that it is here. Okay? The letter that comes after B is, again, this is another one of those awkward pauses where I'm hoping you answer the questions, but you're probably just waiting for me to give you the answer. But if you are answering the questions while I'm giving you this dramatic pause, I thank you for participating in my TED Talk. And thank you for participating in this video. Thank you. So, the next letter that comes after B is, where's that awkward pause? You're right, it's C. I feel like Dora. It's C. And then what comes after C? Less awkward pause. It's D. Okay? And then so on down the line. Okay? That's the keyboard. Grouping of 2 black keys. 3 white keys underneath it are C, D, and E. grouping of 3 black keys. The 4 white keys underneath it are F, G, A, and B. Then the alphabet continues. It's a pattern. It's a never-ending pattern. The only reason why it ends is because we are limited by the instruments that we have. And we are limited by the keys of a piano. Okay? I'm going to erase this now. Oh, my handy work. I'm hungry. All right. Keyboard. We talked about the keyboard because and the first thing for 2.3 is you have to fill in the keyboard. Okay. Then we go back to more note identifying. All right. For the rest of page 12. Now, let's talk about eighth notes. Okay? It's for everybody. We're going to use a time signature. 4, 4. That's your time signature. Okay? For my 7th graders, they should be able to answer this emphatically. Okay? Top number means how many beats are in a measure. Okay? Top number means how many beats are in a measure. So, top number is 4, means there's 4 beats in a measure. So if it's 3, it means there's 2, and then if there's 17, it means there's 17 beats in a measure, yada, 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 yada. The bottom number is what confuses people a lot. And so I'm going to attempt to explain it. If it makes you more confused, I'm sorry. But I'm going to attempt to explain this. So, the bottom number. If you notice, there's numbers on top of each other. For those of you that had math, I hope you've done fractions. If you haven't done fractions, this is a little bit of an intro to fractions, okay? When you have a number on top of a number, it usually signifies a fraction. Your bottom number is usually what you're going out of. For an example, let's say you have $1, okay? You have $1. $1. Okay? Use this analogy a lot in music, okay? $1. A whole dollar. A whole dollar. Okay? You can break that down into 4 quarters. Okay? For the fraction for a quarter, the fraction that means 1/4 is 1/4. 1/4. Okay? That's how I translate what this bottom number means. Okay? 4 beats in a measure. 4 beats make a measure. The bottom number signifies what type of note gets the beat. I'll explain that more when we go into compound time, if we get to that. So, your bottom number is 4. A quarter, 1/4, that's a quarter. Okay? So, how I translate that in my mind is, the bottom number is 4, that means it's a quarter, because 1/4 is a quarter. Okay? Let me explain it another way. No, I won't do that, that'd be more confusing. Top number, how many beats are in a measure? Bottom number, what note gets the beat? Just for now, over 4 means the quarter note gets the beat. 4 quarter notes in one measure. 4 beats in one measure. The quarter note gets the beat. If it's 4. If it's 4, let me say that one more time. If the bottom number is 4, the quarter note is the beat. The top number shows how many beats are going to be in the measure. Okay? 4, there's 4. I'm not near the chalkboard. 4 beats in a measure. The quarter notes equal 1 beat. 4 beats in a measure, quarter notes equal 1 beat. Okay? That confused you, I'm sorry. Okay? So let's talk about our notes again. you have a whole note. Okay? Half of a whole note. Half note. Okay? 4 counts. 2 counts. What's half of 2? 1. What's half of a half note? Quarter note. What's half of 1? It's a half. What's half of a quarter note? Let's do some math. Who remembers math? Who loves math? So, 1/4 divided by 1/2. Okay? If you know fractional math, do it now. No, that actually doesn't make sense. Don't listen to me. I'm silly. Forget that last 30 seconds. That was dumb. Anyway, what's half of 1? What's half of 1? 1/2. What's half of a quarter note? An eighth note. There are 2 ways to draw an eighth note. If you draw an eighth note on its own, it gets a stem, and then it gets a little flag, okay? Hope you can see that okay. Just double check. It's got the stem, and it's got the flag. If you draw 2 eighth notes, or 4 eighth notes, or any combination of more than 1 eighth note, traditionally what you do is, hey Bill.
Still at it, huh?